Good evening and welcome to Four Guys, a Girl, and a Show. With you always, I am JQ. I have our distinguished panel, Mr. Brian Isaacs.
Hey, hey.
Miss Stacy Rader.
Good evening.
Mr. Mike Hopkins.
Hey.
And our friend Dave is out today saving lives. As you all know, our friend Dave is an EMT, so he's on call every now and then. So we wish him he'll come back soon, hopefully. It wasn't too serious. We have a good show planned out for you guys today. We're going to discuss some Justice League of America news we found out about, some stuff about the Goon. But first and foremost, we have a very special guest today. This gentleman has written some great comics that we know of in the past. Jack of Fables, Shadow Pack, Blue Beetle, JSA. And he has two really cool new side projects going right now. Not side project, his new projects right now going live. Mr. Matt Sturges.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Matt, thanks for coming aboard today.
My pleasure.
Well, just we're very casual here, and we like to get to know our guests a little bit and go deep, maybe a little deeper than what most interviewers do. We want to go from the beginning. So, where are you from?
Where am I from? I am you have to forgive my voice. I got in a shouting match with my daughter last night, and I guess I lost because my voice is kind of hoarse.
I have a 7-year-old, I know.
Yeah, she's 11, and so she has a lot of opinions about things. Anyway, I was born a poor black child. No, I was a Navy brat, and so I moved around quite a bit when I was a kid. So, and I think if you talk to a lot of creative types or, writerly types, you'll find that a lot of them spent their childhoods being a bit lonely, and that was certainly the case for me, just from moving around so much from place to place so often and never setting down roots. So I think that was kind of a big, definitely a big sort of key to the kind of person that I became, was just never really settling in one place and always kind of being an outsider. I think that helps you a lot as a writer, then not so hot as a kid. But that's definitely where I got my start.
Well, did you always want to write? Is that how you found, how you say, peace of mind when you were around about?
I always did write. I never really thought about it in terms of being a writer, like that would be a career that I would choose. But I always made up stories, and as soon as I learned how to write, I would write down things. And most of the things that I wrote were pastiches of things that I liked, or what you would call like fan fiction. Like I remember, and I think I still have them somewhere, like notebooks filled with like Doctor Who fan fiction that I wrote, or like the first 15 pages of a Doctor Who fan fiction that I would then give up on and go do something else. But yeah, I never really thought about it in terms of a career. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Never really did until I was like, I don't know, like 30. Being a writer just seemed like so much work. And then when I got older, I thought I was going to be going into academia because I was real snooty in college. But I think, looking back, it seems pretty obvious that, even from the age of, 10, 11, that's what I was kind of gearing up to do without really knowing it.
Well, cool. What made you pick this genre? I mean, was comic books something you had always a knack for, or was it something you fell into?
I totally fell backwards into comics. This is something that I hate admitting to people because it makes people want to strangle me. I had never intended to write comic books. I didn't even start reading comic books until I was 18. One of the things of moving around a lot was that I never really got to, I didn't have a lot of close friends. And one of the things about comics and the whole comic book community is that you kind of had to have someone bring you into it because, especially in the pre-internet days, it was sort of a secret thing that you were brought into, and it was kind of like, being in the mob, it's like, oh, he's a friend of ours, he's Marvel, he's DC. But I never had that. So it wasn't until I got to college that I really discovered comics. And my best friend in college was a guy named Chris Robertson, who you may know of, who's written a couple of comics himself. He was the person who got me into comics. And so I was always just kind of like, so what do you got this week? And he'd be like, oh, have you heard of Sandman? And I'd be like, no, what's Sandman? He'd be like, here, read this. And so I'd read that. And so he was always just the guy who would hand me the comics. And I, for the longest time, thought that I was still a little too good for comics. Comics were, very plebeian, and the people were weird who read comics. And I still hadn't learned yet to let out my inner nerd. I think there was like this part of me that when I discovered girls, like my freshman year of high school, I tried to pretend that I had no nerdiness in me because in those days it was not cool to be a geek at all. This is like 1983, 1984. So I just totally pretended like I didn't like any of that stuff. And it wasn't until I got into college that, I started thinking, well, that's fine. And so then by the time I was in like my junior year of college, I wrote a 20-page paper about V for Vendetta. So that was kind of how quickly my attitudes about it changed. But I still never thought I would write comics. It wasn't until I got offered the job to do Jack of Fables that I thought it would be something that I would want to do, which is kind of perverse. And that's when I can see them sort of like reaching for my neck mentally, like, but yeah, that's kind of what happened.
So was Jack of Fables your first book?
It was, yeah. It wasn't the first thing I had written. The way it all came about was that I was in this writing group with Bill Willingham and Chris Robertson and another guy named Mark Finn. And it was at a time when Bill Willingham wasn't really doing much in comics, and he wanted to be a prose writer, and that's what we were all setting out to do, was to be prose writers. And we all had kind of similar interests. I was trying to write sort of like literary fantasy, and Willingham was writing, he wrote during that time the book that he eventually published as Down the Mr. River. And so then during that time, Bill got Fables, and suddenly his career sort of took a huge surge. And we had been friends, and he knew of my writing. And maybe it was, part of it was that I had never said to him, hey, can you get me a job writing comics? That maybe that was part of why he felt comfortable asking me to do it. And so, I've been reading Fables and loving it. I feel like I'm coming off like someone who doesn't really like comics that much. That's not true. I love comics, and I have. And at that time, I was reading lots of comics. So getting the offer to do Jack of Fables was very exciting for me. It's just not something I'd ever considered as an actual job, if that makes sense.
I hear you. We hear you. Well, what is your dream project then? If it's not, if it is comic related, is it a comic, or is it maybe a book, or is it a movie, something bigger? What's a dream or something on a helm, something you've always wanted to get your hands on?
There's a couple of answers to that question. The easy answer is to say, I'd like to write Superman. Superman's definitely my guy in terms of superheroes. If I was going to write a superhero book, I'd like to do that. I'm kind of doing a couple of my dream projects right now. So to me, it's kind of like my dream project is whatever story I'm working on at the moment. And then hopefully I can finish that before it stops being the dream project and the next thing becomes the dream project, because that's kind of bad when that happens. But so, yeah, I think that I would definitely love to do a Superman book. But at the time when I was doing a lot of work for DC, even if I'd had the opportunity, which I didn't, I wouldn't have taken the job because I wasn't ready to write Superman at that point. I don't think I would have been good enough to do it. Now I think I might take a stab at it just out of pure hubris, but I don't really think that that's going to be offered anytime soon, so I'm not holding my breath. But you never know. So you kind of want to have that Superman story tucked away in your back pocket, just in case.
We look forward to see if it ever happens. Well, let's talk about your current things then. So this is your dream project is your current work. So you have two things you're working on right now, correct?
I do. I have two things I'm working on for First Comics, and it's been really great because they, they know me and they know what I do, and they trust me to just kind of do it. So I'm working on a graphic novel right now called The Four Norsemen of the Apocalypse, which is being drawn by John Lucas, which is a lot of fun. It's really, it's very dark humor. It's about four dead guys who drive around in a custom van and have adventures, kind of like the A-Team, only they're all dead. And they, instead of traveling to different rural towns in California, they travel to the different afterlives of all the different cultures of mankind, and they have wacky adventures, and it's narrated by God. So the ultimate, it's a lot of fun. It's designed to offend the kind of people that like to get offended at things, and so I'm hoping that I get some real angry emails about it. I think if I don't get any angry emails, I'll feel let down. You know, like I hadn't maybe done my job right. I should have tried harder. But that said, the other book that I'm super excited about is this thing called Public Relations, which I am co-writing with my buddy Dave Justice. And that book is coming out in April, I think. Four Norsemen is coming out a little later because John Lucas is still drawing it. But Public Relations is coming out in April. That's an ongoing series. It's the first arc is drawn by David Hahn, who's doing a bang-up job on that. And the second arc is currently also being drawn, penciled by Steve Ralston, who's doing a fantastic job on that. And it's so good, and I'm so excited about it. This is a comedy, but it's more like a sitcom. The line we use is it's like if the show Arrested Development sidled up to the Princess Bride at a party and spiked her drink. That's kind of the feel that we have for Public Relations. And you can go to publicrelationscomic.com, if I can plug the website.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and you can look and you can see kind of what the book's all about. You can see some art and stuff like that. I won't go on and on about it, but the basic idea is about a guy named Dan who lives in Dallas. He's a public relations guy, not a very interesting person, kind of a dreamer, but his father happens to be the king of Sardonia, which is a European country where magic exists, and Dan's never actually been there. So when he's invited there for his father's 50th birthday party, he's kind of anxious about it, and he invites Serenity Dark, the goth girl next door, who is the intern at his company. They go together. The birthday party becomes a huge fiasco, catastrophe, and his father ends up insulting and alienating representatives of many, many countries in the surrounding area, so just almost on the brink of war. And so our hero, Dan, realizes that he can help his father by using his public relations to smooth over these problems. And that's kind of the quote-unquote plot of the book, is Dan and his coworkers solving these problems. But of course what it's really about is the relationships among these people, and Dan and his father and his twisted half-brother who's a sorcerer, and this girl Threnody that he likes, and a girl named Violet who has inappropriate relationships with monsters. I could go on and on about it, but I think the proof is in the pudding, and when it comes out, I really hope people will read it.
Well, will this book be geared toward mature readers, or will it be like a PG or PG-13-esque? I mean, when you...
Geared to mature readers, so very incredibly geared toward mature readers. It is not. It's not something you'd even want a younger reader to even know existed.
Okay. Well, when it comes out at the shop, I'll make sure we put it high up on the rack then.
Yeah. Don't shelf it next to Amelia Rules.
Well, you also do a book called Damsels, correct?
Yeah, that is a thing that is happening with Dynamite Comics, and it is I guess it's sort of a spin-off of the thing that I'm doing. Is sort of a spin-off of the Damsels book. It's funny because I just finally got back with them after I got the job, and I've been sort of like doing interviews and stuff about the book, but not really having any idea what the story was going to be. It's in the most like broadest terms, but now I kind of actually know what it's about, so I can talk about it a little more intelligently. And it's basically the story of what happens to the Little Mermaid after the events of the Hans Christian Andersen tale, and how she gets roped into a plot to take down the hieromancers of Atlantis. I won't say any more than that, but it is sort of a high adventure, kind of a love story, and I think it's going to be very lovely. That, by contrast, is an all-ages story, and I really want it to be sort of lyrical and pretty, and something that will make my 11-year-old daughter happy, as opposed to the horrible 40-year-olds that are the target audience for everything else that I write.
Well, this book, Damsels versus Fables, how would you pin that against each other? Would it be like a battle royale, or no comparison?
Yeah, when Dynamite first came to me with the whole thing of damsels, and at first blush, I was like, well, that's like Fables, and I don't want to do that. But it's actually not really anything like Fables. I think that the thing about Fables that makes it so great is that I think Bill Willingham was one of the first people of the current generation to realize the power that those stories have, that they have become our sort of shared language, that in earlier times would have been the Bible or Shakespeare or any of the other things like Greek tragedies, any of the things that the culture all knew as touchstones that would draw them to a work and let them see sort of its foundations. We don't really have that anymore, because our the reading public today doesn't have those references. They're not they haven't been brought up highly versed in scripture or highly versed in Shakespeare, and certainly they haven't been reading Juvenal and Cicero and Aristophanes. So instead we have cartoons, and we have Superman and Batman and Spider-Man. And we also have these fairy tales. And the nice thing about Fables is that it sort of cracked open that world. And Bill has always said, when people pitch to him an idea for Fables, he'll say, you don't have to ask me permission. Just if you have a story about one of these characters, write it yourself. And so when I got offered the notion to do Damsels, I thought, well, do I have a story about the Little Mermaid? And I realized, yeah, I do. I have a great story. And the primary difference between the two is that the Damsels sort of universe is very much set in the world of those stories. They're all sort of connected in this sort of fantasy fairy tale world. There's nothing urban fantasy about it whatsoever. And its primary focus is these women who are the heroes and victims and adversaries in their own stories. And the stories are geared towards a younger audience and an all-ages audience. So I think it's a nice counterpoint to Fables, and so I'm excited to doing that, because I think I'll be able to do a story here that will be a little more tender, a little more romantic, maybe a little sweeter than I could get away with at Vertigo. And so I'm pretty excited about it, actually.
Well, cool. Brian, you have anything for Matt?
Yeah, what you said with public relations, that's being published by First Comics.
Correct.
And it's interesting. You're one of the new ones for this new generation of First Comics, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I grew up and I remember First Comics, Nexus, E-Man, and all the rest. So it's interesting to see them making a comeback. I mean, how does it feel to be like on the ground floor again?
Well, it's really interesting because we're sort of seeing firsthand this thing come together, and it's an interesting dynamic because they're sort of reaching back and getting some of these old gems that they've got and sort of polishing them, recoloring them, and bringing them out, putting them back in print of some of the things that they had done in the past, and putting out a bunch of things like Zen, Intergalactic Ninja, and stuff, maybe even some things that they didn't publish originally. But then they're also trying to create new things that ideally would have the same kind of slightly left of center vibe. And so the goal with them has always been to say, look, you're the creator, you know what you're doing, just go do it, and let's all hope for the best. And so far that seems to have worked really well. Cross your fingers, hopefully that translates to people buying the comic and not picking it up and going, what the hell is this? I don't think that's the case.
And, it's, in regards to Fables, I mean, you guys did some great work on that. I mean, I'm a big fan, but it's just like, it seems like it screams television, but now you get all these knockoffs like Once Upon a Time and Grimm, and I feel like you guys were there first. I mean, do you feel like do you feel it would lose something if it got translated to TV, or do you think it would work?
Which now?
Well, the Fables in general. I mean,
I think, you kind of answered the question yourself that, other people got there first. And, let's not forget that Fables is not, and this is something I know Bill would agree with, is not an original idea. It's a very clever juxtaposition of several things that work really well and is easy to understand and communicate, and also happens to be really well written and gorgeously drawn. But there's nothing about Fables that is, he didn't invent that notion. There was that thing, what was it, the 10th Kingdom, came out, years before that, and Philip Jose Farmer had been doing similar things. And I prefer to think of it, and I think Bill does too, is that there's this vein of what Bill is now calling mythic fiction, where you're taking these established concepts and characters that are available to everyone, and you're mixing them up in the pot of your imagination and sort of releasing them into the world. So I think a lot of people got frustrated on Bill's behalf when shows like Once Upon a Time and Grimm came out, but Bill was not particularly upset about it for that very reason. And I think the Once Upon a Time people, I think, actually sent Bill a very nice note saying, we have read and love Fables, and all due respect, and so they were real classy about it.
Cool.
Well, speaking of the TV and movie genre, do you see any of your current projects transforming to that media or staying strictly in comic form?
It's funny. We talk about that kind of thing, but among creators, there's a bit of a divide in the sense that, some people, are more than happy to see their props, their creations, packaged and sold to meet them. And then there's others who think it's anathema. It's like, these are comics and we've created them to be pure and true to their own medium. And I can sort of see both sides of that. For me, I think it doesn't affect me one way or the other if someone takes a book that I've written and makes it into this, it's the same thing as writing your own sentence script, if you had to pay me for the right to do it, which I'm all for. I'll have to take your money. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't change my, if you do a fantastic retelling of it, that's great. I mean, that said, our stuff and go, oh, movie, or, this would make it great. Public relations fantastic Adult Swim cartoon because it is very much conceived of and written as if a sitcom, and that's been our approach to the thing. And I think when people read it, you'll kind of see what I mean, because there's lots of like laughs. There's lots of like punchline, punchline, punchline. It's intended to be very quick and funny and episodic in the same way that a sitcom is. So this is just kind of our experiment, like how much can we make a comic book that's like a sitcom, and what would that be like? And then on the other side of the fence is something like Four Norsemen of the Apocalypse, which would only work as a comic book because you could never, it couldn't possibly, there's no way I could even fathom it being translated into anything else. It is only comics. It has to be comics. And that's, I think that there's some things you do in comics that you only do in comics, and that's always a really beautiful thing. Right now I'm working on this Thor Season 1 book, which is super fun to do, and a great character, and what an opportunity to be able to sort of retell the origins of this classic character. And I had written this page a certain way, and Pepe Larraz, who is illustrating the book, came back and said, well, what if we did this scene where, we're looking from this angle, and the entire page is done in such a way so that we can see all the way up this tower, and every panel is showing the character walking at a different stage on this tower, but it's one coherent image broken into 5 panels. And I love that so much, because that is something you could only do in comics, where space equals time. That's the only medium where that happens, where time and space are interchangeable. You can never do that in any other medium. And so stuff like that just, makes me so happy. But I think that, there's no reason that you can't have both. And so I'm always kind of irritated by people who say that it has to be one way or the other. You can have comics that are pure comics, and you can have comics that are treatments for movies, if that's what you want to do. I mean, when it's a big world, we can all coexist in it.
All right. I'm looking forward to picking up some of that work in next year that's coming out. And if I'm not mistaken, Damsels is out right now, correct?
Damsels is out right now, and I think I know where my story slots in, but I'm not sure. And it hasn't even been, I don't think there's even an artist for it yet. So my book, whatever it ends up being called, will come out sometime next year, I guess. They're gonna get mad at me because I don't have a good answer to that question.
Well, I know. I think issue 2 came out a couple weeks ago, if I remember shelving it right at the shop I work at.
Yeah.
But definitely looking forward to your art, man. It looks like next year's gonna be pretty popular for you.
This year I've been under the radar a lot, and it's weird because I was reading something on the internet, and someone was like, "Whatever happened to Matt Sturges?" And I was like, no, don't say whatever happened to Matt. No, I'm still here. I just don't have anything coming out right this very second. So it's kind of like I have this issue of Ferris from Vertigo that came out a couple months back. I wanted to run into a comic book shop. See, look, I'm still here. I still have a career. Just wait a few months, and you'll see that I've been working this whole time, and you're all going to be sick of me by this time next year.
Well, and you're going to be making an appearance at Fables Con, and correct this year?
Yes. Fables Con is going to be a lot of fun. I think if it comes off the way that I'm envisioning it, it will be great for anyone who shows up at it, because the feel is less like we're the creators and we're going to sit up here on this panel and we're going to talk at you about our things. And if we're lucky, we'll give you 10 minutes at the end to ask us questions. I think it's going to be more like we're all people who like fables and things like fables, and we're going to get together and we're going to talk. So I think the whole thing is going to be much more conversational, sitting at the bar talking. And if you're a reader, if you're a fan and you want to come talk to us, we'll be at the bar, and let's talk. I love that idea. And, I love that it's not going to be, a big, huge spectacle. It's going to be a much more intimate kind of thing. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend you make it up to Rochester next March for that convention.
And do you travel the convention circuits a lot, or just every now and then?
You know, I haven't the last few years because I do have younger children, and it's hard with with school and everything to leave my wife and go traipsing all around the country. As they get older, I get to do a little bit more each year as they're a little more capable of fending for themselves. And so next year, I'm looking forward to doing a couple of things. I think I'm going to be at I'll be at Fables Con. I will definitely be at C2E2 next year for the first time. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't been to Chicago in a long, long time, and I love the New York Comic Con so much now that I've never missed it. I think I'm still I didn't go to San Diego Comic Con last year because I hadn't gotten over the previous year yet. I still had like the con crush a year before. I think I'm still not over it yet. So it may be another year or two before I can force myself back to San Diego Comic Con, and I'll make sure to let everyone know when I do.
All right, all right. Stacy, you have something from that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I wanted to say, in terms of conventions, you should totally try to make it to Charlotte, North Carolina to Heroes Con. It's a very, very family friendly, so you could bring the wife and kids. So I think it would be a lot of fun. That's my favorite convention, just because it is such it's a very comic themed convention. So you should check that one out.
Yes, I've actually been to Heroes Con, and I keep wanting to go back. And actually now I can because my folks live in Greenville, which is like an hour and a half from Charlotte. So now I have no excuse to not go. So I should really make sure to go next year.
Yes, you definitely should. No, sorry. I'm a Heroes Con fangirl. Sorry. No, I wanted to ask you about your other Vertigo title because this is, I think, the first title I've read of yours was House of Mystery. And I just wondered if you had any, how that came about in terms of, did you read a lot of the House of Mystery, the older stuff, or was it just kind of like, hey, this is a cool concept and I'm going to run with it? I'm just interested in that title.
Sure. That was really weird because the way that came about had nothing to do with me. I was sitting at a dinner at San Diego Comic Con, and Bill Willingham and Shelley Bond, who is our editor, walked up to me and they said, we're going to do a new House of Mystery and you're going to write it. And I said, okay. And then I didn't know what they were talking about. So after the dinner, we went back to the bar, and I was like, okay, what is this House of Mystery thing? And they're like, you tell us. What is it? And so over drinks, we kind of figured out what a story would be. And it just so happened that, we said it in a bar because we were sitting in a bar and drinking and telling stories. And so the whole concept of paying for drinks, paying for stories, wait, I'm so confused. I'm tired. You pay for your drinks by telling stories. That's how the comic book works. We knew that we wanted to do, we loved the notion of doing an anthology, like, one of those old anthology books, but also that to DC, and really to any publisher, I'm not like blaming DC for this, that anthology was a swear word because nobody would buy it. And so what we decided to do was have this concept where we could have our cake and eat it too, that we would have an ongoing story, but that we would sneak in these short stories every month so that we could have sort of the feel of the anthology in the sense that you would have a short story illustrated by someone different every month, but then also get away with it as an ongoing title and actually be able to say it was an ongoing story. So I think it was actually kind of a clever idea. And we did 42 issues of it, and it was great. And I got to work with some of the best artists in comics. I'm still floored that I got away with it. I don't know why I was so lucky to do it, but sure I'm glad I was.
Well, it was a fantastic book. I was very sad to see it end. So.
Yeah, I think it was getting really hard to keep the quality of it up. Um, it required so much effort on my part to make it be good. I had to stop because it was driving me insane. The scripts by the end, it was taking me like upwards of 3 full weeks to write a script for that book, and I was going to go broke doing it. So I just had to stop. That's the honest truth of why I stopped doing it. I couldn't force myself to do it anymore. But I was very proud with how it turned out, and I think it holds together really well. And maybe someone will come along and find it and be charmed by it. But to answer your actual question, which was I think I read I had some of the those big omnibus editions of the House of Mystery that they put out, the big black and white things, whatever they call them, the DC show. And you read those things, they're not great, like from our current standards, the storytelling is very I don't know if you've read them, but it's very kind of like Twilight Zone-y. It's like 8 pages, twist ending, and you're out. So I wouldn't say that they were a great inspiration to the series. I think it was really more. It was more like set in the Sandman universe than it was sort of in the House of Mystery ethos from the 1960s and 70s. But, I mean, that's where all that comes from, ultimately. And so there is certainly some of that camp and some of that overwrought melodrama we would sneak in from time to time just to sort of be true to our origins, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and two, I think my favorite issues were the Halloween annuals because you got to have sort of that landscape of the Vertigo universe, and you still had that feeling of a tying theme, but everybody kind of got to play in everybody else's sandbox.
Yes, and that was definitely where I think it really came closest to being that, because we were all just having a good time, and we were telling, spooky stories, but also kind of silly stories, and everyone had fun. We, like you said, we got to mix and match and do different stuff. So that was always definitely the highlight. I wish we'd been able to do more of those. The Halloween. I think we only did 2 of them. But I think, if I'd had my way, we would have done one every year the book was out.
I would have certainly enjoyed that, but I don't always get to dictate, so.
All right. Well, Matt, it's been a great Q&A so far. We're going to jump into some other topics. Would you want to stay aboard, or we're going to talk about some Justice League and some Goon? I mean, if not, we understand.
I would love to, but I've got to run.
All right. Well, no problem. And Matt, thank you very much for your time. It was great to get to know you, and hopefully we can have you back sometime next year when your stuff drops.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys.
Have a good night, Matt.
You too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Sturges. That was good. Good talk there. All right, well, let's jump into some news. This week, Justice League of America is going to jump out at us in February from the DC New 52. New team, new everything from it looks like, but they're still going to run Justice League. Is that correct, Brian?
That is correct. This is going to be a completely different team set up by a shadow company within the DC universe, headed up by Steve Trevor. A lot of this Jeff Johns is currently setting up right now in the Justice League book, and the team will consist of various characters like Green Arrow, Hawkman, Katana, Catwoman, the new Green Lantern Baz, and they're introducing Vibe into the New 52, and God help us, Stargirl.
Almost up until Stargirl almost sounds and Vibe sounds like it's going to be their version of X Factor, or maybe their way of rebringing back the Outsiders back into play. It
possible could be, but it also I mean, I don't see how dark the team could get with, somebody like Stargirl on there who's kind of always been like the cheerleader for the JSA.
Yeah, the whole Catwoman and Katana kind of throw me off too. Especially with Katana being part of the Birds of Prey, unless that's going to change in the next couple months too.
I mean, you can have people on two teams, man. It's not the first time anybody's ever done that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's just one of those things where if you see how intricate the team is with Birds of Prey, I don't see the time Katana would have just to traverse the world with JSA.
But it's going to be. I mean, Jeff Johns is writing it, so got to have his dead sister in there.
Well,
and then they have David Finch, who the man can't make a deadline, drawing a monthly book. Are they high? It's not going to be end up monthly, and there goes their so-called, we'll have books monthly. No, you're not.
No, they're also throwing us this gimmick that we've seen in the past coming back to life with having various covers and whatnot. So there's supposed to be 52 different covers of this #1 book, and the variation of these covers are going to be the state flags of the United States, correct?
That is correct. They are mimicking that famous, you got 4 characters mimicking the famous portrait statue from the flags of Iwo Jima, I believe, hoisting up a flag, and there's going to be 52 flags. All the U.S. States, including Puerto Rico, and then an American flag.
It looks like the characters hoisting the flag are Vibe, their new rendition of Vibe, Catwoman, Arrow, and Vaz. And then in the background, it looks like there's Hawkman or Hawkgirl, the Manhunter. And I really can't tell the rest. The picture's a little too small on my computer screen, but I can see the gimmick. It may work. Who knows? But I kind of want to give this book its due diligence and read it. I mean, see what happens from it. But I'm not 100% sold on it yet.
It's, do we really need this gimmick? Is it really necessary to have 52 covers? And I am so sick of variant covers. It's not even funny. They're just annoying. I find them irritating. This is why, today's comics cannot be collectibles, because variant covers really take down the value of a book.
Yeah, we were having this discussion at the shop the other day, and we were putting the books away because we were looking at the wall, and most of our wall after the week goes is we string up on this back wall that has just various covers of past, present, and present books, and a good portion of our wall are variant covers, and some retailers do sell variants for an inflated price. Some sell at a slightly inflated price. Some sell at cost. It all depends on how many they order and where they sit in as far as their status goes. But I know, as far as pricing goes, people want to grab that variant cover thinking it's going to be worth more. But like you said, in change, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the variation cover is worth less than the real cover.
Right. What you were saying about, overinflation, Midtown Comics last week was selling, I don't know what book it was for, but they wanted $138 for the variant cover. Are they high?
Well, and the way it works when we order is some are 1 in 25, so for every 25 books you get the 1. Then there's some that you have to order 100 books to get the 1. Like AVX had a 1 in 500 variant where you had to order 500 copies of AVX #1 just to get that one cover. I think it was the X Babies cover or some cover like that. I mean, and people went bananas trying to get all 12 AVX #1 covers, and I'm going to myself, why? They weren't that good. The regular cover was good on most of those books.
Yeah, but don't even get me on covers to begin with. I can't stand it when they bring in some hotshot artist to do the damn cover, like Jim Lee, Alex Ross, Michael Turner for a while, and then you got the real artist who's doing all the freaking art in the book. I'm sorry, they're the ones who did the work. They're the ones who should get the cover. That's the way it should be. They did the heavy lifting. They should be able to have that cover. It's like a swimsuit model type of thing. Don't bring in a ringer, guys.
Well, in talking with Steve Scott, as much as I do, he even said that that's like now the comic book artist's dream job is doing covers, because the amount they get paid per page for inking and penciling and whatever they got to do is far less than it used to be, and now the money's in covers. So you're seeing lots of the, like how you said, the A-lister artists doing covers, and it's, I guess, where the money is for them now.
Yeah, there's also a downtone in that because people can get fooled too. You pick up a book with Jim Lee's cover, you think you're going to get a book drawn by Jim Lee. You open it up and it looks like a monkey did it with a crayon. It's horrible. It's just like
I don't know. I would be excited if I bought a Jim Lee cover and it didn't have Jim Lee art in it. I'd be like, yes, jackpot. No Jim Lee art.
Stacy's not a fan.
I'm not a fan. I appreciate his talent. It's just not for me.
No, I liked him when he first started. He's overhyped. Same with Alex Ross. It's just like all his crap looks the same now.
I have to say about Jim Lee, I do like what he did to Batman when his Hush storyline came out. I mean,
the story was so crappy.
Well, the story was crappy, but the art brought life to.
But this is the problem. It's just you got a bad story with really pretty pictures, and then everybody's fooled into thinking this is the best Batman story that's ever been. No, it's crap.
I mean, it was better than Odyssey. Batman Odyssey by Neil Adams. I wanted to throw my head through a wall reading that book.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with that one either.
But the pictures were pretty.
It's I don't know. It's just, Neil seems to have taken a downward spiral at some point in time. If you look at it like his older stuff, I don't know, stuff like his early Batman stuff from the 70s and his Green Arrow, Green Lantern stuff was really good. And I don't know what happened.
No, I mean, I'm gonna get whatever cover comes to me from the shop, but am I gonna go hunting 52 covers? I don't think so.
Nah, that's what we got Evo Day for.
You and I can trade off, Jason, because I know I'll probably want the Mississippi one, and I can get you the Maryland one.
Dude, if we get the Mississippi cover, I'll be more than happy to send it to you, Mike. I'll take a normal cover. I'm fine with it. I rarely dive into the variant hype. I mean, there's a few of the Court of Owl variants that I picked up, Batman covers by Capullo, just because they were nice looking.
Haven't we had enough of these gimmick covers from the 90s and 80s, especially the 90s? It's just like, are we really doing this trend again? Are we going to start getting the holograms again? I mean, what's next here, guys? Do we really need to go down this road?
Well,
it seems like a desperate money grab to me.
It
seems like our stories aren't good enough, so let's try to sell 52 copies of one book by making them all variant covers because we know fans will buy them. Well,
that's it right there, Stacey. And then the fans are half the problem with this equation because they're the morons who keep buying this stuff who just, they'll go on online and bitch about it and then go out and go, ooh, pretty, let me buy it.
But would you rather have the variants, or would you rather be stuck in the 90s where books aren't worth squat? Because they were overproduced.
But we're still seeing that.
But not as bad.
Yeah, it's worse. Today's books aren't. I was lucky enough to get The Death of Superman. I could care less when it was coming out, but my local comic shop saved it for me. I saw it shoot up to $200 and then drop down. I think it's like worth $5 now for even.
I've seen it in quarter bins.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I have, and it's still bagged in quarter bins.
I think I sold it for like cover price. I was just like, hey, I don't want it. It's just.
Oh, I mean, talking about covers, I mean, have you seen what McFarlane was doing over the past year with the Spawn books? Whatever he drew outside of Spawn, he recreated that cover. Like the Venom cover had Spawn on it. The Walking Dead, it was like the Spawning Dead or something like that. I mean, he did everything he worked on or was popular with a Spawn theme to it, and people came and bought them like they were free Skittles. I mean, I could not believe how fast people were buying these books.
Whoa, wait a minute. McFarlane draws?
Yeah, every now and then I guess he does.
Wow, I did not know he draws.
But I mean, the one that made me laugh the most that people came and beat our doors down for was the one of Venom Public Lethal Protector. It was a recreation of that cover, but it was Tremor jumping over Spawn as Spider-Man. So Tremor was Venom and Spawn was Spider-Man, and it was pretty clever to do. But we went and grabbed the other cover just to compare them, and they were pretty dead on ball, spot on accurate. Well, people came and bought them up.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm with you, Brian. I don't get it either.
I mean, it's my local comic shop will ask me if I want the variant cover. I'm like, no. Just give me the regular one.
I get it if it's an artist you dig, like, you know, if for some reason, not that this happens that often, but if somebody like Mike Allred does a variant cover, or there was a book a few years ago called Rapture that was, it was an indie book, and Eric Powell did a variant cover, and I bought that one because I liked the variant cover better, but I don't have 2 copies of it. I have 1 copy of it. I have just the variant cover.
I guess, I kind of see the point. It's just, when we're talking about the, 52 covers, it's just like, really? Is this necessary?
I agree.
There's a lot of stuff DC is doing right now that I don't think are necessary, but that's a whole other story.
But when the 52 quarters came out, were you guys getting the quarters? I mean, I understand they're not the same price, but still, were you not picking up the quarters?
What quarters?
The state quarters?
The state quarters, yes.
Oh, no. Not at all.
Now, there's some people that went crazy for the quarters, but
my mother-in-law.
I mean, but there was that, but going on a tangent here, there were some of those quarters, if they were in a certain mint, that are actually worth quadruple what they. I mean, it was ridiculous. People were going nuts for certain mints.
Well, some people don't realize there's 2 mints. There's one in Pittsburgh and one in I forget where the other one is. I think it's Dakota.
It's irrelevant. But
they sit there, and I mean, everybody. The reason I know this is because my grandfather was a coin collector, which I consider something like comics or stamps. He likes to have the quarters from both mints. It has to have a D or a P on it. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with comic collectors. I mean, I don't always get the variant covers, but I do like the sketch variant covers because it's black and white. It looks awesome, and I just like it. But I won't pay $25 for it because one of my stores sells it for $25 because it's a 1 in 25. So there's other ones that'll sell it for cover price. It just depends on where you go. I mean, if it's like hunting for toys. You look for that variant. The same thing with toys. The Marvel Legends, the Marvel Universes, they all have their little variants as well. Everybody, it's a hunt, is what it is.
I hate the hunt.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, how come you didn't get that variant cover? I'm like, well, my boss didn't order 500 copies. That's why we didn't get that variant cover. I mean, it was the same thing talking about when Black as Night was going through. during Blackest Night, if you remember, they were giving a special. Marvel was doing an offer for a Deadpool cover. I can't think of the book that was for, but if you ripped 20 or 25 covers from a certain issue of Blackest Night and sent it to Marvel, they sent you this Deadpool variant cover that at one point was going for $400.
That was such a bitch move on Marvel's part. That really was. I'm sorry. I remember that. I was just like, really? You guys are that afraid of this?
Yeah, and stuff like that just hurts the whole industry, I think, because that's the stuff that non-comics readers hear about. They hear about it on the news, or somebody they know talks about it, and that's the stuff we're like, oh, look at those people that read comic books. They're all, I'm not going to read comics because that's stupid business, or they just they think it's ridiculous, and I'm inclined to agree with them, but I think that's where you look at other parts of the industry that aren't the big two, and you don't see them doing stuff like that. I mean, I guess one part of it is that they're struggling to keep up with the big two, but you see a lot more kind of camaraderie that, everybody's trying to push everybody else's books in the creator-owned community, and the big two, it's just like, oh, we're DC, we're the best, or oh, we're Marvel, we're the best, because I don't think either one of them is innocent in that kind of stuff, but it turns out to be a bloodbath. And all it does is cause these stupid rivalries that don't make the books any better and make the industry any better. I do it.
Think of that move. I mean, that move was kind of a bitch move from Marvel, but think of what it did. It made people go out and buy this cover of the DC book. So in turn, they had to, how many people did it, went and bought 20 versions of a DC book, which helped them with sales, but then when they destroyed the book, it thus made that book kind of short run in a sense. So if you didn't,
that's not how the program worked.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying
it wasn't. The thing is, that program wasn't for the consumer. They were asking the stores to do it. That's what made it a bitch move. They were asking the stores directly to do it. The consumer had nothing to do with that program.
Yeah, I don't like that. That sounds like crap.
But that hurts the industry in a major way, because that hurts the shops. And it's bad enough with the digital comics, screwing over the shops left and right. To pull a bitch move like this, really? These are, it's just like, learn who your customers are, guys.
Yeah, it's a dog-eat-dog world, but at the same time, it's the way of the beast. I mean, it's not going to go away. I mean, there's going to be variant covers. There's going to be 1 in 500 covers. I mean, when we start seeing the chromium variants, then I'll start going, all right, we're going back in time now.
There was a chromium variant for Walking Dead 100.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. No, I mean, the other, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, we don't make the decisions. We don't make the rules up there. And end of the day, that's all that's going to happen. Until we make our own money and build our own comic book studio and movie studio, we're not going to get things the way we think need to have it done. It's going to be the big bosses doing the string pulling.
Well, everyone should do like what I do. Talk with your dollar.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think we could make changes if everybody voted with their dollar and said, you know what, we're not going to buy 52 variant covers. I mean, honestly, I hope this 52 variant cover thing is an abject failure. I know it won't be, but I hope it will be. I mean, I hope people go, that's ridiculous. That's not what we want. We don't demand variant covers. We demand good stories and good art and respect for us as fans. But then you're going to have those people that are going to go out and buy them and
Yeah, but personally, Stacey, I think you just nailed it right there. The word fan is what annoys me more than anything. If people would stop thinking like fans and start thinking like consumers, I think things would be different. I really do. I mean, would you do the same thing with a car? Not really. I mean, we got to start thinking of ourselves as consumers, not fans, as consumers, and really start talking with our dollars. And that's the only way the industry is going to change.
Yeah, because the prices of books are going up and the quality of stories and page count is going down.
Yeah, and if a book's not on time, don't buy it. That's what I say. Speak with you don't like you think the gimmick covers are ridiculous? Don't buy it. Don't give in to temptation. Speak with the dollar.
The almighty dollar.
Yeah, I'll step off my soapbox now.
Stacy and Brian for president. Well, I mean, the only other thing that really was newsworthy this week was the Goon campaign got some, I guess, some fund money from what it seems, Brian.
Yeah, they were doing a Kickstarter campaign and they successfully funded it. This has been a couple of years, I think it's 2 years old now. They want to do this as the Goon as a computer animated story, and there is a short out with oh my God, who is it?
Paul Giamatti.
I know that. Paul Giamatti as Frankie, and Clancy Brown as the Goon.
Yeah.
And it's actually, if you get a chance to watch it, it is all around the net. It's pretty good animation. It looks just like the comic book. I mean, this ain't no cheap Saturday morning animation here. This is like the high quality Pixar type of stuff. This is really impressive. And the voice casting was dead on. And there's been talk for a while to make this into a movie. But so thanks to Kickstarter, they were able to put it up there.
I mean, and the Goon's been it's not a 100% popular character, but as a cult character, he's popular in that aspect because I know a lot of people in our shop love the Goon, and Eric Powell is a good friend of Scott, the shop owner. So I know when he comes to town, people line up around the gate because he's very, very, very popular with the cult community. So I like to see this come to pass because his character has been pretty cool.
The only thing that annoys me about this is one of the people involved in it is David Fincher. Doesn't he have the money to put this up? He's got Hollywood money. Pay for it, you schmuck.
Well, and I think the interesting thing too is that the I think it's around $440,000 that they raised wasn't for the film. It was actually to produce a story reel. So it's not even like this money is going to get the film made. It's just going to get the story reel made so that they can make the film.
Basically a sizzle reel.
Right. So that's something that I think's been a little bit of controversy, kind of divides people in the community. They say, well, we're raising all this money and it's just for a story reel. But I think it's a step in the right direction. I, for one, am a big fan of the Goon. I'm super excited. So I hope this movie gets made for sure.
See, I don't understand that with the sizzle reel. It's just like if they already have something. I don't know. They have the short. Doesn't that doesn't it say everything?
That short should be able to sell a movie. I don't see why some properties are getting made before others. I mean, and the Goon, to me, should be transcended into a movie media. I mean, it's just one of those things that would work in the long run.
They made other things that have, Scott Pilgrim got made into a movie. And that was lesser known.
Scott Pilgrim has learned self-respect.
Just watch that again. Watch that again while I had the cable out. God, that is such a funny movie.
It is a great movie. It's one of my favorites.
So underrated.
Yes, it was. All right, guys. Well, I think we hit all of our topics this week. Anything you want to add?
Talk with your dollar. Don't think of yourself as a fan. Think of yourself as a consumer.
Remember that, boys and girls.
Fan if you must be a fan. Don't buy variant covers.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
That was all for you, Mike. Well, before we leave today, we're going to give a couple shout-outs to some people out there. Big old shout-out to DC Collectibles for putting out all they put out. And this week, you can look out for your new 52 Cyborg toy. Action figure just came out in comic shops this week.
He has two hands.
He does have two hands, yes. Also, TofuJesse.com for all your 3 3/4 G.I. Joe or Marvel Universe needs. Our good friends over at Pendragon's Post. And our good friends over in Mississippi's best comic shop, 3 Alarm Comics. A little self-plug for my boy Scott over there. All right, and as always, my name's JQ. Thank you very much. For Brian, Stacy, and Mike, have a good night. And Dave. Don't forget Dave. He's saving lives. Have a good night.